Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think we're good. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? How's everything going today?
Great. Wonderful. I watched your video this morning about Bobby Lee, so I'm on
Yeah.
edge. I'm on edge.
I saw that you guys were talking about Bobby Lee when I was looking at your stream a little bit when I just loaded it up, and I was like, oh man, you're gonna talk about Bobby Lee. So yeah.
Bro, well, you know, okay, so I wanted to talk to you for a multitude of reasons, but one, first of all, your name is Dan, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, because I saw like your other channel with Rob.
My wife, Robin. Yeah, my wife.
Yeah,
we have a podcast channel now, a podcast vlog channel called Robin Dan. Yeah.
I love the Robin Dan twist. Like, does she actually go by Rob normally?
No, we were just kind of shooting what names we want to call something if we did. She wanted to do something that was like her, but with me. So we're trying to think of names. We didn't want to come off as like some weird thing. We didn't want to do Mama and Papa Gut because not that we want to retire it, but it's like we want to be us, you know?
Of course.
And so we came
That's
up with
what's hard.
Yeah. And so we did Robin Dan because her name is Robin. So it's like Rob End, but like Robin Dan.
I love that.
It was just nice and simple and fun. So that's how we
No, I think that's really great. Well, the vibe was really warm and really lovely. And I was really contemplating the last few weeks, you know, which men do I like in general? Not that it matters who I like, but who do I think is like wholesome? I'm looking for like just people who want to live wholesome, nice lives and do right by their people. And then I'm watching you and I'm thinking, oh, like Papa Gut's a great example. And I do watch you. I know you see me commenting in your stream. So like I'm watching you and I'm like, this is a vibe. Like this person has just a nice vibe. Like I trust him. I don't know if I should trust him, but I do feel like I trust you.
Well, I appreciate that.
There's an honesty that comes through. And even today, watching you be so upset over Bobby Lee, I'm like, oh, see, there's like this stance. He has like a value or he has like a limit. He has a line.
Yeah. There's a few people that are upset with my take. But that's just my take. And I even say in there, if you disagree, I understand why. But that's just my interpretation of it. And, there's something about social media, especially if you get like a lot of viewership, which I've had in the past, not anymore, but it's almost a good thing where you unintentionally will like warp your takes to try to conform to maybe what your audience thinks. And I'm just over it. So that's one of the things I think I've done well with me rebuilding this channel. It's one of the goals is I don't want to disagree with my audience, but if I do, I'm not just going to instantly like swap positions. So that's one of the things I'm very proud of with this new channel.
Do you find yourself, because in anything I ask, please don't feel free to not answer it or something. Now, when I originally reached out to you, my little brother had been watching you on TikTok before you got kicked off.
Oh, that's
yeah, he really
rest in peace to your little brother.
Yeah, rest in peace to that TikTok. But he said something like, oh, I love Papa Gut, but I noticed that he's becoming like a little bit too progressive for me. And I was like, really? Papa Gut's progressive? And I was like, oh, and then I checked out your work and I was like, okay, I see him being much more open, much more what are women going through, much more. And I wondered what transformation had even gone through from your TikTok to YouTube content? Have you gone through one?
I'm sorry, I just have like a little cough.
You're good.
Well, yes and no. I've always had the same general perspectives on everything. I think things have evolved now that I'm like older and I've talked to more people and I'm a little more educated. I'm more empathetic. I think it's something that's changed a lot.
Yeah.
I've never had a difference. I've never really changed in my opinion. Maybe the way I express it has changed a little bit. On my TikTok, I focus a lot on jokes and I would do social and like political commentary as well. But you would see like kind of 15-second bursts and like I did a lot of jokes and that's considered more conservative because I would make I consider them bigoted jokes, but they weren't actually hateful, most of them. It was just, and I say most of them because, and I'll get into that in a second, but I think a lot of people interpreted it as like I was like transphobic or homophobic or, racist or something. And when I realized that was one of the things that made me not want to exclusively make jokes anymore. Because it's one thing, I make the same jokes now on my videos, except it's a 15-second joke in the middle of a half-an-hour video. So I'm kidding. But on TikTok, I'll do something and people will think, oh, he's being serious. And it did get to a point where it was getting a little hateful. I was getting a lot of criticism for my jokes as I stopped doing a lot of political and social commentary around when Donald Trump wasn't elected anywhere. When he lost. I think everybody phased out of politics for a bit. And so I was getting more intense. People were starting to call me out more. And I understand why now. And I got a little hateful and I started being a little bit intentionally antagonistic. Not my proudest moments. But I've always been a progressive. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. So you have always, you have this, conservative, maybe it's your masculinity vibe to you that makes me automatically assume you'd be more conservative. But yeah, your content, I would say, is pretty progressive. And I am curious because if I compare you and Ethan, and then like I look at you guys, because Ethan was this guy who was like a centrist, and now he's like, I'm not a centrist, I'm center left. And like there's this whole thing where he wants to be this progressive. But I think unless you're so in politics and embroiled in it, genuinely most people just want people to get along and not hurt each other. And so it's kind of hard. But when the politics come in, so I'm curious, do you think your stance so passionately anti-Bobby Lee in this opinion is coming from a political place or a personal value place?
It's definitely coming from a personal value place. In that video that I linked, I also linked my reaction to him telling the story, at least like one of multiple times. And I've seen like another time of his offline. I watched the story. Me looking at this story, it comes off as a guy who is telling a genuine story. And the joke, he might be playing up some aspects of it about him, where he goes into, what is he, in Tijuana, and he goes into some, I guess, alley with a bunch of prostitutes, and he specifically picks the girl who he explains looks 13, right? Like looks like Natalie Portman from The Professional. Then he goes to, engage with her, and she's crying, and then his words, he power fucks her. To me, that's describing like a rape. Maybe the story is completely made up. It sounds like a genuine story. It sounds like he's trying to get ahead of it before his other friends come out with it, so he can be like, I said it first. I could be wrong, but frankly, given this nature, no, I just think that it's true, and it makes me not like Bobby Lee. I'm not trying to cancel him, but I'm just not going to watch him. I just can't watch him anymore. Like, it's not like I didn't make the active choice. I just, after that happened, I would see him on TikTok, because I used to always, and I would just scroll past him like, I can't interact with, I can't watch this anymore. It just doesn't appeal to me. It just feels inappropriate.
Yeah, there's a conundrum I think we all face, which is, separating the artist from the work and all of that stuff, which I can do a lot of the time. I definitely love people with a past and people who have overcome. But even hearing that story through your video today, so I haven't watched any of the other videos, just your video reacting to it, I was like, and I watched Tiger Belly. Like, I watched Kalila and Bobby, and I was like, I missed that story. I missed that video. And now my brain's like, can I watch this? And I was like, Brittany. So I'm asking myself now, do I feel comfortable watching Bobby? Because like I have so much grace for so many people, but Bobby is in his 50s. He's repeated the story multiple times, and I've never heard it until now because I don't watch his actual stand-up. But I was kind of shocked that he kept it going, that he never learned at any point in his life to stop this story.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't know. If you don't believe it, that's totally fine. I totally understand.
I don't know. I'm lost.
At least I haven't got not a single person, fortunately, has said, I believe the story, but I still love him, Papa Cut. So that's the good thing. Nobody said that.
Yeah.
If anybody said that, I'd have a problem. But I can see why people may not believe it. Yeah.
I wonder with like the way people talk online is so difficult. The way we even like process like what is uncomfortable, what is inappropriate. I watch a lot of the podcasts from the stand-up comedians, and genuinely they are a certain type of person, right? Like, not to categorize them, but like it takes a very specific kind of person to be a comedian. And I feel like, and I said this earlier, I'm so curious what you think, whether it's YouTube, whether it's comedy, whether it's acting, lying, morphing stories, changing details is so part of the narrative. Even when I got chances to do talk radio, they're like, you're going to have to lie. Don't change your mind publicly. In the public, you have a shtick. This is your shtick, Brittany. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm just like, I can't keep track of lies. I'm going to end up showing it on my face. Like, I'm not going to be able to do this. So I feel like one of the reasons I've been sort of a slow success story is actually because I don't know how to play the games of fabricating or sensationalizing my life. Yeah. So do you think there is a space for that? Because I just radically accept that like people are going to do these things and that's how they're going to make money, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean?
Well, you're asking me, do I think that there's a space for like more genuine content about a person instead of like a character? Is that what you're asking me?
Or is there a space for characters? Like, should we have characters and real people?
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, I think a great example of a very funny character is like Terry Joe. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Terry Joe on TikTok. Ethan just did an interview with him. It's a whole character. It's this black guy, a black gay guy, a guy who pretends to be like this Christian white religious woman on TikTok and just says like the most outlandish shit to people. I love the character.
Yeah.
I just think, first of all, I think that we're definitely at a time now where like jokes about sexual or like children, well, rape in general, but like children are like very off limits. A lot of some people brought up like I made a joke like that on TikTok, which is one of the things that really bothered people. There was this guy named Andreas Lopez, and he allegedly at 23 had sex with a 14-year-old girl. And so I made a joke on TikTok that's like, if she's old enough to bleed, she's old enough to breed. Thank you, Andre Lopez, for the advice. And, you know, that's when I realized people were very sensitive. A lot of people were cutting out the end. They were saying that I'm a pedophile, stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
So we're definitely in a social structure that doesn't value those types of jokes. And I understand that. And I think I'm part of that as well, you know, for sure. But I also think that Bobby Lee thing is fucked. Like, I don't know.
That is so...
It just comes off as an actual
so
thing, you know? I enjoy the jokes. It just doesn't come off as a joke. But I could just be wrong. And if you don't agree with me, that's perfectly fine. I get it.
Totally. Absolutely. Well, I think that's the conundrum is like, I believe there's like an objective truth outside of our perception of a situation. So somewhere, the universe knows the truth of what happened.
Yeah, for sure.
And that is what I wish I did know but I think I'm just going to probably take a break from Bobby Lee for a while. And again, I'm not trying to like cancel him, but I'm trying to say like, how do I feel about this story if it's real? Yeah. And he kept going with it. Because that is very interesting to me. It's one thing for him to have said, I did this thing and it was horrible. He didn't even seem, even in this video, he didn't seem remorseful at all. He didn't even seem creeped out by his own story.
In his original, when you watch his original stories, he's not creeped out at all. I would recommend watching it. Either like you can watch my reaction. I think in my reaction in this, like it's the sources, I have just the raw clip. So if you just want to watch that, but like just the way he talks about it, you know, it's hard to explain. You have to watch it, but it just comes off as a real story.
Okay, I'll definitely check it out then. So this moves us into what I wanted to talk to you about, which is what does it mean to be like a good man? Do you think Bobby Lee is a good man?
Well, you know, I mean, this specific instance,
yeah.
I mean, that's a hard conversation. It's like, let's say he did this thing 30 years ago. I don't know what was going through his head in this conversation. Like, can you repent or can you come back from something like that? I don't know specifically. Based on this action, I don't think anybody could be a good man who, you know, rapes a child, of course. If it really happened and there was, I mean, we have conversations about reforming murderers. So I guess we could have a conversation about reformation from something like this.
Yeah.
Me personally, even if it was reformed from a societal perspective, I would never associate myself with him. So I don't know if Bobby Lee's a real man. I wouldn't want to weigh in on that based on the situation. Based on this situation, I would have to say no.
Yeah.
So I don't think so, though. I don't know. I don't think so.
That seems to be the conundrum that I'm facing right now. Because I know in my world, like the bubble I was born into, what my parents thought what a good man was. Like, I understand what that is. I think it's what my dad is. Like, he's not perfect, and he wasn't perfect throughout my childhood, but he is hardworking, consistent, loyal to my mother, loyal to his kids. He is there if I ever need him for anything. He's strong and capable, and he knows his role in the family. Like, and he never undermines my mother's role just because he has a role as well. And so I even talking to my mom the other day, because I was like, look, I'm in this reality right now where people just are not shocked by cheating. They're not shocked by lying. They're not shocked by deceiving your partner. And I don't know what to do. I feel a little bit like an alien, you know, because I've been told by so many people that there's no way you're not going to lie to your partner. There's no way you're not going to probably get tempted to cheat. And I was like, I just don't understand what you're saying, because where I've been raised, like, you don't do these things.
Yeah.
Ever. And so I'm curious, like, when you review yourself as a man and then you look at the internet and like, is Fresh and Fit, are they good men?
No,
like,
they're not men at all. No. I think for me, there's plenty of things you could reference to why they're not real men. I think the biggest thing is that men hold other men accountable for bad actions, and they just don't do that. Fundamentally speaking, the manosphere, from what I've seen, and there might be a good manosphere, but that doesn't exist publicly, and like this, it's not the most attractive manosphere to people, apparently. But especially when I saw them tell a woman who's talking about how she was actually assaulted, about how it was her fault because she didn't choose a good man, she just needs to choose better men. You can't be a man and do that. You can't create an entire victim complex through the manosphere that just blames women for all the problems of men, and then blame women for getting raped, and then say I'm a man, because you're not. I think that when they made fun of like Preach's wife, that's a very off limits. Like, men don't talk about other men's wives. Yeah, they're not men, of course. There's no way. There's little boys cosplaying as men. I mean, Myron's name is literally Myron Gaines, which is from the bodybuilding misc forms from like 2008. Like, it's a little kid's meme. Like this. So
wait, his last name really isn't Gaines?
I doubt it. No, his name is.
Oh my gosh, I wondered.
Yeah, it's like a bodybuilding misc
like
form
Gaines.
thing.
Like
Gaines. Like, are you admiring
yeah.
my gains? Yeah, that's what the
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I watched a lot of Manosphere podcasts just because, again, like, I think it's the weirdest bubble in the whole world. Like, I don't know what they're talking about. It's like, okay, so I'm literally reading Myron's book.
Oh, wow. Why women deserve life. Incredible.
Literally why women deserve. And I'm like
Uh,
looking at this title and I'm reading this book. And the thing about Myron is that even when they use statistics and they talk about things, they take like a route that I wouldn't take. So like when I was a feminist and I was reading literature that said women don't ask for raises, I was like, cool, I'll just ask for a raise.
yeah.
And then my feminist friends would accuse me of like being like a man to get ahead. But the thing is, like, if that's the game and we have a patriarchy and the game is compete with men, like I'll be the best man.
Yeah.
And then there, you know, but the problem is like there's this idea that Myron in his book will use a statistic and say, do you know, like, this happens to average men? I'm like, cool, then the average man should look at that statistic just like I did and then do the exceptional thing.
Sure,
Or
you should
not.
try to correct the behavior. Yeah, no, my mother, my mother was like a single mother who raised me, and she did very well in like a managerial sphere. Like she worked for White Castle, and she ran like half of Long Island. Very, very, very masculine woman. And we would talk about this stuff, and she's like, yeah, women don't really ask for raises. Women don't advocate for themselves as much, whether that's a biological function or what's more likely, in my opinion, more of a social function to just kind of stay quiet and be there. And so like part of the reason women, the 80, whatever, what is it called? The wage gap doesn't exist to the degree that people talk about it when you factor in everything, you know, but it's still like 98, 99%. And that's part of it because women don't advocate for themselves. And part of it's because there's still sexist men that exist in this sphere, you know? So like, yeah, that's a conversation about raising your daughters to stand up for themselves more, and then raising your sons to respect women who stand up for themselves. But when you look for submissive women, you're actively telling men not to respect women who stand up for themselves. Submissive women isn't the same as a woman who listens to you and respects your decision and lets you make that decision because she knows that you know what's good for both of you in like your family role. That's how my wife and I are. Like I make a lot of decisions, but like my wife doesn't just let me do whatever I want. I don't want a submissive woman, you know. I make the right decision because if I don't, my wife will advocate for herself, right? So that's another thing. Submissive women, that's childish. Like you shouldn't want a submissive woman. That's a weak man. Nobody, if you can only dominate a submissive woman, then how dominant can you be? You know,
there is something to be said about it. It's interesting. Language is I'm just fascinated with the language of all of this. Like, what is off limits? What's not off limits? How do we act? And the thing is, because I think most of the YouTubers are playing characters, I do write a lot of them off because I'm like, look, you talk different when the camera's off, or like you're a little different. So my whole thing is like, if you're going to make a shtick, like be reasonable with your character, right? And if your character gets you kicked off YouTube, that's what it is. That's what it is, you know? Like you have to be careful. But that's why I try not to play the character. So I just act like myself. I follow TOS and I try to do the best. But I'm also doing it because my values are kind of my guide. Like, what are my values? What do I stand for? And I can't keep up the character persona. But I do wonder, like, when these situations are coming up, when I'm looking at who's a man, like I asked my brothers, okay, this is something that happened. Like, I have one brother who is like, he was going through his like Andrew Tate, Sneeko, like Gideon phase where he's like, these are my guys. Like, these are the people I watch. Okay. And I was like, okay.
I don't know if I'd put Gideon in that. It's Andrew Tate.
Sorry, he was just one of them. Sorry, Sneeko, Gideon, like that crew, like young guys on the internet crew.
Okay.
And they all separated, right? Because Gideon at one point was kind of like less progressive, right? Didn't he kind of recently start being that way?
I don't know. I haven't really, maybe. I don't know. I just haven't seen him make any Manosphere content. I think the last thing I watched was him like have some weird debate with Kavos.
Yeah.
But I just think I was just bringing it up because I think that Sneeko and Andrew Tate are a very different type of.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
You know, Gideon's a fun little like you know, he's a control, like he does like a goofy prank content, a little, you know. I just wanted to bring that up. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're right. No, you're right. They are different categories of men. So my brother was like liking young guys his age making content. And then he went through like this Tate stage. And I don't know if he's quite out of it yet because but my other brothers who would make fun of Tate and make fun of Fresh and Fit, now they're on the Tate train. I'm like, what the fuck?
Wow.
What's going on? And then at Christmas, we all sat around with my dad and I was like, explain to your sons why they can't like Andrew Tate. And then my dad's like, look, you can do what you're going to do. But given how he speaks about women, I hope you guys are better men than Andrew Tate. Yeah. And my dad and I do have this attitude of like, look, we're not going to, my dad already learned, don't force things down your kids' throats. They will rebel harder in that other direction like I did.
For sure, yeah.
So we're definitely taking the more lenient approach, which is like, you do what you think is right. But we're going to like let you know that if you really think about it, this isn't how you treat women. So why are you promoting a guy who treats women the way you don't treat women? Right? But the thing is, in my life, you have to like walk the walk. So I think a lot of the boys, even in my circles who like Andrew Tate, they like him because he's successful, not because he's a good person.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's successful and he makes a lot of money and he is very strong. He's a physically capable man. Yeah, of course. I can see why people gravitate toward it. towards it. The problem is he's also like a sex trafficker, right? So
right. In my opinion.
Well, I'm sure if you would.
In my opinion.
I think the best
people were mad. By the way, that was what people were mad at me about, calling him a sex trafficker. I was like,
right?
Fine,
like,
in my opinion is like my new thing.
Yeah, sure, my opinion. My hypothesis. Well, listen, we're at a point. I think that it's pretty known that, like, based on what he said, like, he sex traffics women, and the best you could say is, like, based on what he said, he does this thing, but we'll see how the courts go. But, like, yeah, for sure, it's like everything's come out. Like, he manipulates women, promising that he's going to be in relationships. He gets them over to Romania. He has like another girl work on them. He has to have sex with all of them. He undercuts them payment intentionally, takes away their passports, doesn't let them leave unless they're like in love with him. He glorifies like he says that he treats them like prostitutes, and I know I get pushback on that when I criticize him for that. I grew up in an area with prostitutes. It's not glorious. These are people that are like on drugs usually to forcibly have sex with other people for money and to make their pimp happy. I know people watch like Boardwalk Empire once and think that like being a prostitute is fucking glorious, but it really is not. It's terrible. It's horrible, you know?
Yeah, survival sex work is very different than privileged sex work. Like, sex work as a job is just a different game than surviving via sex work when you really don't want to. And that's very much different. I think they're living a completely different lived experience. That's so, like, yeah, I don't like the way he talks about women. I don't like the way he makes his stance. And I even told my brother, I was like, Habibi, look at the way you treat your own mother. Look at the way you treat me. Like, you don't treat us the way Andrew Tate would treat women. My brothers, half of them are still virgins because they're Catholic. Right. Like, and they're really proud about that. They're very much like, yeah, we're like, yeah, no, literally, like I told him, I was like, I think you're so great because you're so consistent with your values. I'm surprised you would think this would reflect the church's values, right? Because the modern church, especially, like, we're not taught this, and I'm an atheist now, but my siblings are still religious. So even using their own language, they really can't get past how successful Tate is. And like, he looks like a badass. And did you see him after prison, Brittany? And I was like, yeah, I saw him walking around with his stogie.
Well, that's cool. What's interesting about the prison thing, people also cried about this, but is that Andrew Tate played up this, what I think is a character in jail about how he was like so oppressed in jail and he couldn't get food and he couldn't exercise. He came out looking really good, and people were like, no, you can maintain that. What was he in jail for 4 months or something? You're not going to maintain that without like decent nutrition and being able to exercise. Like, that's not how maintenance works, especially if he didn't have access to steroids, which he's probably on. Like, most athletes are on steroids if you want to hit that top. Like, I would watch Bigger, Stronger, Faster. I think it's on Netflix. To get into like the whole conversation around athletes and steroids and how easy it is to get away with it. But like, that's one of the things to me was like, oh yeah, this is another like instance of like, yeah, he's not honest. He's playing a victim complex. He was put in jail. He intentionally didn't cut his hair because he wanted people to look like, I think he got disheveled, and now he comes out looking like old man Logan, you know? So, like, he definitely wasn't as oppressed in jail. Or prison, I don't know. I guess prison, whatever. I
don't know what it.
Or is it jail? Whatever. As the character he played on to be, like, he was not going to maintain that without taking those steroids, without eating a decent amount of nutrition, and without like exercising to some degree.
I'm curious. Do you feel an obligation to be a role model for men, or no?
I don't know. An obligation. I don't know. I never thought about it like that. What? Can you tell me why you asked that? Because I don't know how to answer. Yeah, I'm just curious.
The other day on your stream, you said something like, "Guys, I'm not a very serious guy here. What should we watch? I'm not a serious guy." And I was like, "Yeah, but you have like obviously conviction and values, so you must not roll." Because I don't feel like I'm obligated to be a role model, but I do feel obligated to walk the walk because I want to make sure that I'm being consistent with what I say. And so that's important to me, but you know, whether or not I'm a role model, that's like up to the person watching. But some people go into content creation with the idea of like, I'm going to be a role model.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't have any intention of being a role model. I just, some people see me as that, and I really respect and appreciate that. But I'm just like a fat old guy who goes on the internet and talks about stuff. And some of the things that happen to interest me are Manosphere stuff because of how like appalling I think a lot of the rhetoric is.
Yeah.
And so like I just end up talking about it because it interests me to talk against it. And some people are like, oh, I appreciate this. Like, oh, I think you're a real man, which is an interesting, weird thing to hear for me. It's just bizarre.
Yes.
But I appreciate that. But I don't do it I'm not like, oh, I'm going to try to be Papa God. Like, I try to do as non-serious topics as possible, because there's more fun. But then, of course, this stuff, like, it does interest me to talk about this stuff. But it's just a lot, you know, people send me stuff all the time. Papa, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I'm like, yeah, I might as well watch it. I mean, I have a lot to say, and I also make money saying it, so why not? It's a win-win.
It's interesting because and again, this is me just being like, specifically judging through the lens of like how I've been taught about people. Like, when I look at you compared to like a Myron, I do consider you more masculine.
Oh, thank you.
And like, it is one of those things where I'm sure Myron would be like, what the hell? I'm like, well, Myron, you spend a lot of time spawing it up. Like, you feel me? Like, you spend a lot of time. I just feel like when my cousin, like a lot of it's like he's like adding to he's like peacocking.
Yeah.
But that is a guy thing to do. But he is like, he's trying to look pretty for women, which I think is really interesting because I consider that.
Gay. That's a gay thing to do.
I mean,
pretty for women.
You know, as a queer person, I think I can approve of that message. So there is something to be said about that. But even just now, like, you said this is like important, or this is, I think, did you say important to you or something? Where like, what is that? Like, what is it your desire to talk about the Manosphere? Like, why do you dislike the way they're conveying their like manness to the world?
Oh, I just think it's wrong. That's it. You know, like when I started looking at the content, it's not like I was like, this is really bad for men. Like I should talk out against it. I was like, this is just fucking stupid. And it also happens to be bad for the way that we're supposed to have conversations about men. You know, and one of the things that bothers me a lot about the Manosphere, probably almost the biggest issue, is that they pretend to care about men, which what bothers any social or advocacy group that focuses most of their time on breaking down the other group rather than building up your own group, is just weaponizing that. Like, they don't care about young men. They don't care about the struggles of young men. It's just anything to like spite women in some capacity. And I think that's gross, because no man's actually going there and getting, or a young man's going there and getting like actual real education. Like, what do they really say? Go to the gym. Well, it's good, because I've been going to the gym. I used to go to the gym when I was younger. I used to train for strongman and stuff, and it's great advice. But like, what does that mean? Go to the gym. Well, what should I do when I'm there? You know, that's why I've been trying to, like, when people say go to the gym, I've been saying, you know, I personally like weight training. I would do something like 5x5 strong lifts by Mark Ripto. Buy the book, guys. Look into people like Alan Thrall, Mike Israetel, these other people, and like educate yourself on how to like go to the gym correctly. Or find something you like. If you like dancing, like whatever gets you moving. It doesn't matter if you're like physically strong. You know, just get moving, move around, you know, exercise. Yeah. But they'll just say go to the gym. By the way, women are the problem with the whole world. It's like, well, that message isn't really worth go to the gym to me, you know, especially since guys who really work out, the biggest guys I've ever trained with, the most successful, strongest guys who like are legitimate, like compete, you know, go to competitions. None of them are pieces of shit. They're all really super respectful and nice to everybody, even like the unfit people. And like Myron and Fresh and Fit, like, just aren't. They're not really people who go to the gym. They go there, but they don't have like gym etiquette. So I would be afraid. Like, I have this like thing I do where I like I imagine being in conversations with people and like what I would do if this would happen. What do I do if this would happen? I do too, yeah.
And I was thinking about like, okay, if I ever had an opportunity to like talk to Myron, would I pull a normal Brittany where I like, if I showed up to a studio, I'd probably bring like something with me as like a gesture? Or would he be like, why'd you even bring that? What is that, a cheap bottle of blah, blah, blah? Is that like, would I be weirded out if he like negged me? And then I wondered if I would get up and leave, because I don't let people talk to me in certain ways. Yeah. Just because like, again, like, it's not that I mind that people talk different. I can tolerate a lot of ways people talk. Absolutely. But there's a particular thing Myron does or Fresh does where they particularly like they insult as if to neg. And when I hear that, my body goes, oh, my mama raised me better than this. I got to go now. But then that looks like, oh, you're pussying out. You're not like, you know. That's how they would frame it. Yeah. That's how they would frame it. That's the strategy of like a lot of people like that. They'll say something to get a rise out of you. And and they try to get your rise to be greater than the disrespect that they gave. So they can say, look at this. And especially for you, you're a woman. So they'll say, look at this emotional woman. Oh, 100%. Even so stuff it's a lose-lose if you go on that podcast, honestly. It is a lose-lose. Like, and look, I have no intention of really going on it. I don't mind talking, I think, to Myron in a certain context because I did read his book, and so I wouldn't mind necessarily talking to him about that. But then I'm concerned that he will have bad manners because he has bad manners. Well, yeah, he definitely has bad manners. Like but I don't know. I think he considers himself a gentleman, right? Probably. I mean, I don't know how. Like I said before, you know, telling women that were sexually assaulted that it's their fault is, I wouldn't call it manners. And personally, I think a guy who doesn't drink, but like almost exclusively looks for women at bars and clubs that somehow got in, even though they're freshly 18. Yeah. That doesn't seem very gentlemanly of me, of anybody. Same. That just seems like a huge red flag. You know. Same. Absolutely. Gross, honestly. Something you do that also beats a statistic that they always bring up is like you were raised by a single mom, and I consider you successful.
What's the statistic that they bring up? I'm just sorry for cutting you off. I'm curious.
Just they always bring up the fact that like not the statistic, but the narrative that if you're paying for someone else's kid, you're with a single mom who's messed up. She's gonna sleep around on you. She's already got another man's baby. You have to raise now. It's an interesting narrative of like versus my mom had 2 kids when my dad met her or knew her. They knew each other as children, but like so he married a mom with 2 kids. Technically, but like in my head I was like, yeah, those are just my brothers, bros. Like that's just literally my brothers, and like my dad helped raise us as a whole family because like he stepped up. But we don't call him a stepdad, we just call him dad. Like I call him dad, he's my dad, but like my brothers call him dad. And so it is one of those things where I don't really understand this narrative, but you did it. You were raised by a single mom. You found success. You're married, which is something they can say.
I'm very fortunate. Like,
like it's amazing, and you're so in love. Obviously, like you guys obviously love each other. There's something so wholesome. Like if you ever cheat on her,
I'm not gonna cheat on my wife. Don't worry.
I'll be so upset.
And she
I'll be
won't cheat
so
on
upset.
Me. She won't.
No, I would be so upset. Even like now, like my partner has to deal with the reality of like people will not tell him, they don't know who he is, but people will send the narrative of like you're dating a YouTuber and you're dating a girl who does nude art and you're dating a girl, she's gonna cheat on you. And I'm like so frustrated by this narrative. I've never cheated in my whole life, and I have always been loyal. And so the idea that this narrative, like that's just what girls are doing now, really, really upsets me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. In general, you know, we're in our sexual freedom age. So some people are being more sexually explorative, I guess. Great. That's fine. I guess maybe that's where it comes from. But in the so their narrative is like women bad, basically. Everybody's immature. Like young men are shit too. Young men and women are both a little shitty because they're young. They're growing up slower because they don't have to leave the house till they're almost 30 years old because they can't afford it. Because even with like a decent job, you know, you can't move out. I had a job that I was making like 50 grand a year, and I was working side jobs on top of that, and it was almost impossible to move out. It's so expensive. So kids are just growing up slower. Yeah, it's weird. It's just happened. Like that's a whole other conversation. One of the real problem isn't men or women. The real problem is like we're all kind of getting fucked financially. And you know, we always blame men and women, which is distracting from like an actual real problem, which is just
literally economics.
Yeah,
I'm worried.
It's like everything's a problem.
I made so much money last year. Not that I'll repeat it this year, but I made enough money last year that I should have felt rich, and I didn't even notice. Because I had so many expenses, like medical bills and everything I was dishing money out for that I didn't even notice I made. If I didn't have those medical bills, which is like 16K medical bills, obviously I'd have like 16 more K. But like I don't have that money.
Yeah, no.
I have no monies.
It's rough. It's rough out there. You know, fortunately, my wife works too, and she has like health insurance, which is still a fucking our health insurance is horrible now. It used to be really good. Now we have like a huge dedeductible. It's a whole thing. We're getting fucked there too, but I don't even want to get into it.
No, it is true though. So like right now, I'm not gonna lie. I feel bad that I'm leaving America. I'm like, bye, bitches. Good luck. Good luck to your economy.
But I'll be staying in America forever just because I love America. But it's
USA.
Yeah, maybe I'll move to a cheap state. I don't know.
Oh, I'm telling you, there were states I applied to. I think Kansas, Oklahoma, and I think one other place is doing it where you can apply if you're like a minority to get a grant, like a $10,000 grant to come to the city. And I was like, oh, that's kind of dope. Like, so they are trying to move people around, but it's, you know, you got to be a minority or you got to be something, you know, I guess they want to diversify. It's just an interesting idea how people are moving around for those reasons. Okay, now here's where I want to
really quick, not to interrupt you. There's a couple people in your chat saying, Brittany, Papa could actually cheat on his wife. So just to be very clear, because I don't know if I told you this, I used to be poly or in an open relationship. So
yeah, I think is it a sexting thing?
Yeah,
I know that story.
We slowly closed our relationship, and people were like, "Oh, you cheated." It's like, no, I've been poly since almost 10 years, and then we went from that to like open, and then we just like when it was just me and her, we had like a conversation, and she's like, I would rather just be closed, and I'm like, you know what, let's do it. And it worked out. Like we just slowly closed. So people
that's
are like,
dope.
no, it's not real. I know I've never cheated on my wife. I don't.
No, I know that story. I can ignore them. It's the same thing when people were like, Brittany, you can't even cheat in an open or poly relationship. I'm like, make a decision. What is cheating? It's negotiating something and then breaking the negotiation, y'all. It's not that deep. So if you do that, that's all it is. And that's a big deal to some people like myself. Like trust is very important. I want to swing this into like a conversation you and I had briefly on text on your live show when I was texting to you about Sneeko. Okay. And I still have a lot of grace for Sneeko. I'm going to give him like 5 to 8 more years to figure it out. And if he doesn't, then I'll fully accept that he's just like on this train.
Wow.
Yes. Because I just know how radically I changed in my 20s. I just radically changed. I'm not saying that in this moment he's not this person. So in this moment, he should be held accountable if people feel like that's necessary. He broke TOS on YouTube. It is what it is. Like, I'm not upset at any of the systems working the way they work, even if I would change them a little bit. I think like he needs to be an adult and understand like you broke TOS. You have to handle the responsibility of breaking that TOS. And you associated and went too far into the deep end of whatever character, persona, image of yourself you're portraying.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff can be true, but I still have this place in my heart where I want to give him space to find where he's supposed to go. Because the truth is, if he took my advice when I had given it to him a billion years ago, he would not have been rich. He would have been poor, like me. And he would have been, well, he would have been middle class like me. And he would have been joyful, but he probably wouldn't have had pussy or Bugattis or any of those things.
I don't know if that's true. He was very successful before he completely sold out his entire image to become like an Andrew Tate person. He would have been doing just, he might not have been made as much money in a year, but he pretty much has like burnt a lot of his bridges, and like I think where he gained financially, he's lost relationship wise, which is
I agree with
even
that.
his own family doesn't seem to want to associate with him.
Can I say that's the part where I'm most disappointed? Because I will say one thing for my parents being so conservative, they used to threaten cutting us off all the time. But the one thing my parents never did was actually cut us off. They never stopped talking to us no matter how bad we messed up, because they always knew we could come back. And that's how I look at Sneeko. It's like, not that he could come back, but that he could grow into a real man. Because I know he's still learning, like Aiden Ross is. And I have a soft spot for Aiden as well. Because again, they just like remind me of my brothers. So it's hard for me to judge them as harshly. But like, they're a mess. Like, they obviously don't have the background or education to even understand the topics they're talking about. So it's like, why am I holding them accountable the same way I would Andrew Tate?
I get well, my understanding with Sneeko, and I could be wrong about this, is that like his family didn't cut him off. They said you just can't talk about this shit at dinner, and so he did it. Interesting. That could be wrong. That's my understanding of it, but I could be wrong about that. Maybe they did just cut him off. But I think that when you go to the point of like backing Kanye West, who's saying incredibly anti-Semitic things, it's a little more than just being a bit conservative. You know, I have a lot of conservative family members, and we get along just fine, except for my very liberal aunt and my very conservative uncle. They don't get along. But I don't really give a shit about it. But we, for the most part, get along. My mother is conservative. I'm more conservative than I am. You know, we have no problem. Like, we're okay.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. Like, whatever, even the labels don't even make sense anymore, right? Because like my family's conservative. My dad's conservative, but like he doesn't like Andrew Tate. But my dad is also so traditional, and my dad is the man who says like, no, I don't cheat on your mom. Of course not, and of course I don't. Like, my dad's never yelled at my mom. He doesn't call her names. He's never hit my mom. Like, they don't have that kind of relationship. They have a very blunt one, like they're Middle Eastern. So like my mom's gonna have her, she gonna say her say. But like they don't fight like I've seen some people fight in a way that I think is like becoming normalized. And I wonder like who is the guide then? Like, we're so critical of Fresh and Fit and everything and Andrew Tate, but Andrew Tate's winning the online war for boys and men. I think because he's giving them like a version of hope. You can be better than this. Like, even feminism, again, was so anti-men at the time I was in it that I was like, okay, but fuck the men. What are we going to do as women? And they're like, no, we have to take down the men. I was like, oh my God, this isn't efficient. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm not convinced that we have the role models. And right now I think Andrew Tate deserves to win if he's able to be the best voice out there, even though I hate that he's winning.
So first of all, to the role model thing, like, there's not a lot of role models out there, but there's also not a lot of people who are propping themselves up saying like, hey guys, I'm a role model, which I think is a little bit cringe to do in general.
It's cringe, right? Nobody wants to do that.
We used to have, great role models like Bill Cosby, and then there's, that happened. I know it's silly, but like Family Matters and the Cosby Show, these were great male role models. And then Cosby had to go raping girls.
That's what I'm saying. Is it even real? Man, is it even real?
Is
there a good man?
Oh, I think even is it real that he raped the girls? I think so, yeah.
No, that's real. Are there good men?
Yeah, of course. I think that there are good men. I also think that the manosphere is imploding, just like feminism imploded. Like,
you do think so?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this whole thing that's going on, like, not for nothing, but there are people who still look at Andrew Tate and think he's fucking based. But I think a lot of people, especially older people, and those young boys are going to get older and realize he's a joke. He's kind of a joke. It's like a little bit of a meme now. You have a lot of people. I think Abin Preacher, an excellent example of like men who are like, this is just stupid. You know what I mean?
I
like
love them.
It's So I think that there's good men. I think that like good men are still going to be flawed, of course, all the time. Somebody doing a bad thing doesn't mean that they're a bad man. It depends on how bad the thing is, right? There's a difference between doing a little bit of a bad thing versus, like sex trafficking, of course. But you don't have to be perfect. It's just about trying to be as good as you possibly can. So I think that there are plenty of examples of that. Like I look at Terry Crews as an excellent example.
Yeah.
He's somebody, and he cheated on his wife, which is just a terrible thing. But he talks about how he's like a biggest mistake of his life. He's been doing everything he can to like rebuild that trust.
Oh,
And he's like, you'll never rebuild it, but I'm going to do my best. And like you made a mistake, and I understand men generally have different urges than women, so it could be different in different ways. And he's doing his best to like make up for that, and I can respect that. I think that's a real man. He made a mistake, and now he's correcting that mistake. There's like I admire that.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a perfect person. I'm looking for the person who says, I did a thing and I'm not proud of it. And look, I understand why you choose to do this thing, but let me tell you how it impacted me, right? Yeah. Let me tell you how Abba has an amazing video about being the villain because he cheated on a relationship. And I would trust Abba. Like, I mean, I've met him and he's wonderful and he's such a gentleman, but like, it's one of those things where I trust him because he held himself. He admitted, and he agrees. Now, it's one thing if you like have a philosophy like maybe Myron does or somebody else where maybe like not caring about your partner's feelings is a part of your values, which a
hell of a value. Listen, you could, if you have that value, you're just not going to be happy. The reality, if you don't value your partner, one of the things that people don't talk about when it comes to like women or men or what makes a real man is that you can't really be like a very good or a real man without having the motivation from a good woman, or if you're gay, whatever. But you get my point. Yes. Generally, like I'm the man I am today. I don't think I'm where I want to be. I think I'm close though, is because of my wife is like a very motivating factor. Like she does a lot for me, makes me want to do a lot for her, makes me respect her a lot. It makes me a better man. That motivation is, I think, integral to being a good man. That dedication. You can't do that if you don't care about your partner. Like it just doesn't really work out very well. So.
I agree. Like I'm one of the things I'm on this week, I made a podcast about it, is like the difference between happiness and joy. I think Andrew Tate's probably pretty happy. It's not that hard when all you have to do is masturbate or like get a Bugatti. Yeah. But that's an emotion. It's temporary. Joy is like foundational. It's wholesome. It's everything. And look, I don't want to project my family values onto other people, but there is something to be said about these men who say they want traditional like wives and kids and families, but they don't want to spend any time with them. They don't care about their happiness. They don't care about their well-being. They don't. And I'm like, what version of family did you grow up with? Because I grew up with one like grandma and grandpa and like food and get-togethers and all the kids and the generations, and grandma and grandpa were hugging each other and kissing each other and they're in love and like everyone's wholesome and beautiful. And even though it was hard, it was still like you respect your partners. You don't do the things like Fresh and Fit and all these other narratives the way they spin them. Like this isn't, it's confusing to me. And it also makes me feel like a lot of their audience is just men who fall into this category, but none of them are married.
Yeah,
none of them have families.
Fatherless men is what it is.
But you're a fatherless man, and you're fine.
I got lucky. Somehow. I got very lucky. Did. Yeah. Well, it's because like when you talked before about Fresh and Fit, talk about how like a man won't raise another man's babies or kids.
Yeah.
My entire family structure was very there's not a single man in my family that's not a strong man or woman. And like when my father left, like of course there's going to be a pain there for anybody who only has one parent or even no parents, because somebody that was supposed to want you doesn't, and that never goes away. But like my uncle, my scoutmaster, my Jaji, they stepped in very intensely, especially like for this instance of like that love was my Jaji. I'm not Polish, but I have a Polish grandfather because he's not actually like my blood. So my Babci Jaji, it's actually my uncle that was like a very prominent role model for me, married into another family, and like they like pseudo adopted me.
That's so sweet.
And like that's something, that was always nice. And you always struggle with that because like how could people want, like they actively chose to hang out with me, which has been like a little bit of a struggle always. Like I'm very much reconnecting with that whole family now. They're just very loving people. It's fucking weird. But like that, like that's what other men will do. Is like if it comes down to it, like you should be stepping in for somebody else who's failed in somebody's life, because that's just going to happen. Nothing is going to be ideal. And I remember you brought up something before about men raised single. Did you mention something that Fresh and Fit said something to the effect that single fathers raise children better than single mothers, or is that something that
There was I didn't say that, but there is a clip I saw that talked about that. How they say that Pearly Thing said it on a video. Yeah, I don't know where I saw it, but she said, like it was yesterday. She was on this live show with this trigonometry trigger something podcast. She literally said that. I don't know if Fresh and Fit have said that, but it's after 8 years old they fare better with fathers than mothers, but before that they fare better with mothers. Yeah, which is interesting. So I don't know how you feel about statistics. I think they're wonderful and I use them in my life, but I don't care because I'm the exception. I refuse to believe that I will be a statistic.
Well,
I know I will be, but
in some
and I know I am, of course, but I also want to rise above that statistic. So
yeah, of course, that's a good thing, like the bootstraps. What's good to
Yeah.
look at that statistic, though, is that the way that they present it is very much wrong. Because what they're trying to say is that men are better than women at raising kids. Now, I don't know who is. I don't care. Like, if you have a single parent, that parent chose you, the other one didn't. Like, that's what it
Right.
comes down to. So we don't have to sit here and have like super intricate conversations like who's better, because at the end of the day, it's just who's going to be there for the kid. But
Yes.
looking at that
Yes.
statistic better, there's two big reasons why the outcomes of those kids are better. And one of them is because men just tend to make more money, whether it's because they choose more, higher paying jobs, whatever. And two, because a single father, it's 3 times more likely that a single father will have like a cohabiting parent or a cohabiting person with them than the single mother. Women are much more likely to date a single father than men are a single mother. And if we want to talk about how men are better because they raise kids better, well, maybe women are better because they're more willing to raise another woman's child. I don't think either are better. But the single father has like 3 times more likely to have help from another woman than that single mother is from another man. And it's interesting when you look into the statistics about how these things work. And oftentimes it comes down to like women and men or partners. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But generally, women and men are better at raising than just one or the other. That's what it comes down to.
Okay, that's what I'm so confused about because, like I said, I like statistics. I try to, especially when raising a baby of my own. We haven't had kids yet. Obviously, that's like something we're debating and discussing. We want to, when my partner and I have kids, or if we have kids, we want to raise them with a particular standard because as much as we love our parents, they got we wouldn't give them an A+ for as parents, okay? And so we'd like to get at least, A-, maybe a B+ from our kids. So we're like, okay, how do we manage this? And it really starts with, why are we even getting married in the first place? Like, why are we even together in the first place? So I feel like a lot of this always starts with the why of why are we even getting married? For maybe Myron or all these other people, it's status or having babies or moving your genetics forward. I grew up in an environment where my mom was arranged married, her first marriage. And so she really promoted the idea of a love marriage to us. She wanted us to know we could be in love and we could find good people, that we weren't and it was better in my family to be single than to be in a bad marriage. So I never had that pressure of like, you're turning 30, you have to have a baby, like none of that. Because my parents were like, we don't want you getting married to the wrong person.
Yeah, of course.
But that's not the narrative that a lot of these people have. It's, I'm lonely. I should get married just to settle. I should be with somebody so I can prove I'm a worthy partner. But in my bubble, that's just not what we cared about. That's why my siblings, like only 2 of them are married. I'm going to be the third. And the youngest is like 21. So we should be more married based off of my parents' past generation, but we're just not rushing into it. We're not taking the plunge unnecessarily. We want to find the right partners. So I feel like all of this talk always ends up with the why are we even doing this in the first place? Because there are like contract marriages, but I think like love marriages are superior.
I think they are too. So are you asking why are we doing marriages? Is that the question?
No, why do you think we always go to the aftermath of like, look how these kids are being raised? Why don't we go all the way back to why are you even making a baby?
Okay, just give me a second. I'm trying to.
Please.
So what you're at? Okay, I think what you're asking.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just. I know it's a good question. I'm just trying to make sure I interpret it the right way. It sounds like what you're asking is instead of focusing on the parents not being there for the kids, why focus on why are they getting married in the first place?
Yeah, why do we even have babies? Why, like, here's Fashion Fit promoting this narrative. Andrew Tate said the best way to find a woman or best way to raise a baby is find a woman, have her in a foreign country, have the baby, send them money every month. And I'm like, what? This isn't parenting. This isn't. Oh, hello.
No, sorry, my camera just got a little funky. Go ahead. Sorry. So,
like, what I'm trying to say is, why do they always go to the survival? Like, you notice the Fresh and Fit guys are surviving. They're like, this is how it is, so we have to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why does everyone go to the surviving reaction? Just let's move it back and pretend we're not in survival mode. What would we do if we had all the resources?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, we need to make babies. Which is probably one, I think so, just so that we have people to populate the earth. We do have technology displacing jobs, so maybe we don't, but it's good to make babies. I think that's like the most basic, or not most basic, but like the only factual meaning I could draw from the world without, thinking about God is that like we need to just keep existing, and that's having more babies.
Yeah.
when it comes to marriages, though, I like the concept of marriage. I think that dedication gives people purpose. I think it's really good for both men and women for different reasons in different ways. I think that the meaning of that is changing. I will say, though, I think that they should correct the narrative that you should stay together for your kids because I think that's toxic. You don't have to be a good husband or a good wife to be a good mother or a good father. You just you can be present in your kid's life without maintaining a marriage. And I think that if you're in a marriage, and let's say you were probably happy at first and things changed, maybe you grew different ways or something happened, you can respectfully get a divorce and still be in your kids' lives. Because if you stay together just for the kids, your kids pick up on these traits. They pick up on the traits where you guys are being toxic, but they don't realize it. And they think, oh, this is what it means to be in a good marriage. So now when they find somebody else, let's say they're miserable. And they're like, well, this is just how it is. And let's just keep the misery train going. That's not a good thing to do. So I think if we focused on love marriages a little more and we normalize getting divorced, but amicably, because there are so many people who use children as a bargaining chip. Both men and women do it, and it's horrible. If we can learn to break it off a little more amicably and be in each other's lives and be more respectful, you'll see more love marriages and more long-lasting marriages that are healthier for people.
Yeah.
I would say.
It's because okay, so it's so funny because divorce impacts children negatively, and also having a toxic parent-love relationship impacts children negatively. It's like if you're in this situation, you have to weigh the pros and cons. But this is for me, it's sad that we're getting even to that point where I feel like most people are settling in their relationships. They're not really picking the people they wanted. They're picking the people they ended up with. Yeah. And I think there's something to be said about the divorce rate for that reason, or the way the way we're raising children. It's not a big deal. Well, it is a big deal. I don't know. The problem is, I think we're just, on a floating rock in space. So, do what you're going to do. We're all part of history. We're all going to die in, 1,000 years. Who knows? So, a part of me doesn't worry about it, but a part of me wants to fix it for the present moment now. Because I think there's a lot of hope to be had. I think people are mostly good. I think we're trying our best. We're just really messy.
Yeah. Sure.
And I want people to do better, but I want them to know they have options. You don't have to be in survival mode all the time. You don't have to say well, these are the statistics, so I can't do anything else. But you also don't have to be a person who puts on this front. I think Fresh and Fit this is a projection maybe, they give me the energy of men who are so mad at women that they're pretending to help men, kind of like what you said earlier.
Yeah.
But they think they're really doing something because they are helping some form of man, some category of man.
Yeah. Rapists.
But that podcast was insane.
It's so bad. It was horrible.
It was so bad. It was in the moment, I'm just somebody do something.
I needed an apology with tears. All right, that's what we need. All right,
that's what I'm saying.
No, once he said that, once you blame, because I hate being this inflammatory, but once you get to that point where you're blaming women for it, and then you're doing shit you're finding the youngest, most submissive, hairless, unintelligent girl that has no relationship experience. What am I supposed to think? You want to date a kid, man? It's fucked up.
Bro.
I don't know who that appeals to. God bless him. I hope that God bless him. It's horrible.
That's the thing. So, okay, so I sit there and I look at the world and I say, okay, we're obviously having different relationships with reality where they had that comedian come on talk about running train on white women without their consent, just so casually, bro. And I'm sitting here ma'am, why is this allowed? Why is this even allowed? I don't want to be a conservative like my parents where they don't even cuss, okay? But I also don't want to be so indifferent to the pain of other people that I would just sit there and think, oh yeah, unconsensual, rape, sex, train, totally okay. This is so funny. Ha 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 ha. It's this is not funny.
Yeah,
something is wrong.
I watched that. I watched a little more of it after I watched the I've Been Preach video. It's interesting. Apparently, he says that happened when he was 13, and it was because of rap music. I don't think that he was going around running trains on white women because he was racist at 13. There might be a level of truth to him trying to be a better person, and because he was very much in that kind of gang culture, and so
sure.
What's his name again?
I don't know.
I forget, but I think the overall message, and I think that he's inaccurate about some of it, is that he's trying to be better. And that
I looked up his business. He runs an inspirational, help people be better business, right?
Yeah, I think he's trying to provide resources, especially to young black kids, to not go down the path he went. And I can respect that fundamentally. I don't think that he was raping people at 13 and drugging them and putting coke in their cigarettes at 13. He's probably doing it much older. Frankly, what he's done is too much for me to personally go like, oh, okay, like no big deal. Like that's terrible. But I can maybe, and I don't know him too well, so it could be a little inaccurate. It seems like he's trying to prevent other people from going down that bad road by calling out like glorification of like killings and rap music and stuff. So I can understand the message. I just wanted to throw it in there. I don't know how much on board I am with it, but I wanted to throw it in there as like context to give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt.
That's what I want.
It's still super uncomfortable though.
I've been doing this thing lately in my content, and I know it sounds really judgy, but I'm trying to find language of being like, hey, we should elevate it. So like if you want a lifestyle, let's say poly or monogamous or Christian or not or whatever, just elevate it. Make sure we're not being like dysfunctional, even though dysfunction is a part of our lives. We've all had dysfunction in our families. Maybe there's a goal of elevating it that could come in without like casting like hardcore judgment. Because again, I want to give people space to grow. And I just don't think they do that if you like write them off. And at the same time, I think not everyone's got the patience or the grace to stay consistently open with certain people. So that's okay too. Like, I think it's fine that like Ebram Preach don't want to help Sneeko anymore. I think that's reasonable. But I don't think it's wrong that I'm open to still helping him because I see like a potentiality there. And at the same time, I do not like the way these Manosphere people talk about women. Did you see Valuetainment? I watched them too because I think they're interesting. And they had this girl come on to talk about Tristan Tate and dating him. And she got really overwhelmed and started crying. And she was like, that could have been me. Like he used all those tactics on me before he was famous. And I could have been in Romania right now, like sex trafficked. And the guy was like, well, don't get down on yourself too bad. Like you dated a top G. At least you have that. And I'm like, bro, she's literally crying because she was worried. Like she literally had the real, and even her boyfriend was like, oh, I was wondering like what kind of women fall for the Tates.
Yeah.
And like
normal women, honestly, younger women that like, you know, it's just, you know, who wouldn't be drawn into somebody that's like strong and has a lot of money? You know, that's
a red flag for me. When people flash their money, total red flag. When I was on dating sites for a small time, anytime guys would be like, hey, I can fly you out, I can hang out with you, I was like, sex trafficker, next. Because like that's not impressive to me. Like literally not impressive to me. And it's also scary. It's like, what do you want? What do you want? What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you flexing your power and control over me so you can get me into a hotel room? Like, what are you doing?
Plus I get motion sickness on airplanes, so I could never
do that. Dramamine all the way, people. Dramamine, you have to take it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's something to be said about this assumption that women would want these things. And again, maybe I'm different. Sneeko calls me a man because I am the breadwinner. I do make more money than the average person and I don't need men's money. And so I don't want them for that reason. Like my partner is going to be mostly a stay-at-home partner and a stay-at-home dad. That's our goal because I'm much more career driven. And even though he could go back to work and do his thing, I need care now because I'm chronically ill.
Is that what you want from a man? I'm just curious. It's fine.
So I'm very egalitarian. I want us to be the best team and I want us to kick every other team's ass. And by every other team, I mean the versions of ourselves. And I want us to do whatever's good for the relationship. So if like 5 years down the line, he goes, okay, babe, I actually think I want to go to work now. We can talk about working less or doing things different. I am not concerned with our gender. I'm concerned with our success.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious. Are you dating somebody, or is that just what you're looking for?
I'm engaged.
I didn't even know. Congratulations. I had no idea. You should have told me. Congratulations. When did you guys get engaged?
Well, we started dating in June of last year. We did a courting style dating. So it's you date from basically either 1 to 3 dates or 1 to 3 months. And then you decide if you're just going to break up because I don't want to waste anyone's time. I already know what I'm looking for and my values and where I'm going.
3 months is a good time, I think, to try to really get to know somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. And we fell in love really fast and we ended up being very compatible. Our first date lasted like 8 hours on Zoom.
Wow.
We just like couldn't stop talking and we haven't stopped talking since. Then he met my brothers and got interrogated. Then I met his family and got interrogated. And then we formally got engaged in Europe in December, ? I think around there. Yeah.
Well, that's good. When you get older, you fall in love so much faster. You know, you just like know what you want, and it happens. No,
I think so. Yeah, I'm really lucky. So we're really happy. That's why I'm moving to Europe at the end of May to be with him. Yeah, we're gonna try that out. It's better all around. But like him. He is the kind of man, like I'm just going to gush about him. So I probably shouldn't talk about him, but like, I love him so much, but he's not threatened by my success. He's not threatened by my dominance. He's not threatened by anything. He's just very secure in who he is. So everything that I do is just like, oh yeah, there she is, Brittany doing Brittany things. And then he's just like, yeah, I am who I am. He's so secure, but I'm sure a lot of people like my brothers were like, he's not as masculine as I thought he would
Yeah.
be. I was like, he is a gamer boy, so that kind of
Right.
makes sense. But I was like, yeah, he's not. I thought I was gonna end up maybe with this like really tough cowboy, but I ended up with somebody who was so much better. Somebody who was kind, compassionate, patient, who could understand my mental illnesses, understand my chronic health issues, understand my job.
Yeah, that could be a big one because I know I might be intimidated dating like a sex worker. Personally, that's like
For sure.
yeah, no, that would be a little much for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, also, you know, you said he's not as like outwardly masculine, but there's something about another thing about being a man is just like doing what needs to be done. You know what I mean? So like if a compatible relationship is just I need somebody to satisfy X, Y, and Z, I have like, you know, A, B, and C satisfied. You know, you just kind of a man should be flexible in that capacity. So yeah, like,
yes.
nothing wrong with that at all.
No, he's really great. And even my brothers are like, okay, Brittany, this is by far the best person you've ever brought home. And this is by far the most compatible person you've ever brought home with you. He's really lovely. And I was like, he is lovely. Like he's so kind and wonderful. And I think there's like this idea, even my parents were really doubtful. And now they're like so on board. They like gave us a nice wedding gift. They're very like, okay, you're obviously more happy and joyful than you've ever been. This man must be treating you very well. And I was like, he is. But one of the tenets of our relationship is that we talk about everything. Consent and transparency is key. But also we are not going to play the, well, as a man, well, as a woman. It's like that. No, as a partner, as my spouse, we want the best for each other. So we're going to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're just going to do that, you know? So it's very teammate oriented. But you see these like dating fresh and fit guys, it's not a team.
No, it's not a team at all. That's the best way to operate. You know, there's general roles that men and women fall into, but I mean, at the end of the day, you just need somebody that's going to work for you, like work with you rather, but like you guys are going to work with each other.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I love problem solving with him. It's like my favorite thing to do. So I guess, okay. So here I am. I'm going to wrap up our convo because I know you have a thing to go to, right? Like I know you have obligations today.
Well, yeah, I have to,
eventually.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do a little content after. Like you can take you can take up whatever you want. Like I'm not in like a super rush.
And same. What I want to do then, because I often what I think happens is like, because we don't have concrete solutions and we're giving advice we think is generalized, but I'm not sure that it is, and people are going to default to people who look cool, who have the right branding, who have the consistency, and who have what they think is success. And frankly, I don't know how to explain to people that depending on what you think success is, if you want joy, it's not Bugattis and women. It's wholesome, good, solid relationships and a good life, a meaningful life. Right? How do we make a meaningful life more interesting to people? Because apparently it's too boring, I think.
More interesting, meaningful life. I don't know if you can. I don't know. Because you ask me questions that take a long time for me to think. You got to give me a second, okay?
Good. Take your time.
How do we make a normal life meaningful? I don't know. Because like you said, like it's really cool when you got a guy that's like, hey, I got fucking money and cars and I can get as many women as I want. Because like, listen, when I was a young man, and I was a dog. Like I would fuck around constantly. I was an animal, and that's one of the things I've had to work on as I'm getting older. And you know, changing that. I'm actually much happier now that I'm not doing that. It's bizarre. You know, chasing women almost becomes an addiction. You really can't. It's like a big time saver. There'd be times where like my whole day was wasted me just like talking to a bunch of girls, see who would, you know, because as a guy, go on Tinder, maybe 1 out of 20 girls are gonna say yes, but hey, then you can slide in. You almost have to just have the miserable experience. Go chase the money and fail in the crypto market because that's generally the advocation. And, you know, you'll be like, fuck, this sucks. And hopefully you find love and realize that it's worth more than selling yourself out. It's really like people would think it's cringe, but there is something that's very intoxicating about finding like actual love that's motivating and makes you a better person. You know, especially since for most men and women, I don't think that they're, you know, you're usually not going to find somebody after you've made all the success in the world. A lot of times you're going to meet somebody and then you're going to grow together, and that you can't replace that growth. Like there's not going to be a strength in a relationship that didn't have some form of like struggle in some capacity. It's the same thing why rich kids, entitled little assholes, like they just run around. There's really nothing going on in there. Like if they're going through like some kind of struggle, it really helps build character and you can grow together. And I'm never going to be able to grow with somebody like I grew with my wife when we were going through like the harder times, because there's no hard times anymore, you know? So yeah, you just got to fail and realize like, wow, that was terrible. And then when you get older, go, guys, I made a mistake. Try not to make that mistake. And then, you know, I've always been the kind of guy who needs to touch a hot stove to know it's hot. And I think a lot of people are, and you just say, hey, you shouldn't touch that, but they'll touch it and they'll go fuck, and then hopefully they just get better as they get older. That's the best you can really hope for, because you can't force people to do things. Like you were saying before, you got to let them explore and learn and grow and make a lot. Like some people need to make a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes, and you just grow through that, you know, and that's what it comes down to. So
that's exactly how I think about it, which is probably why I have a lot of leniency on certain people. But at the same time, it doesn't mean I can't like hold you accountable or say, hey, I'm not about that life. Because I did tell like Sneeko that when I had talked to him months and months and months ago. I was like, you need to follow this path, but you're gonna lose. Like he lost a really great girl. And he knows it. Like he lost an amazing woman, and he chose this journey. And I hope he realizes like what he lost, because he is losing a lot. But I think he's like a touch the stove. But every time he touches the stove, he also makes like $100,000. So he's like,
yeah,
you know,
it's like
so it's kind of hard.
Yeah, he also is in a position where he gets a tremendous amount of the benefit of the doubt. Or tremendous amount of benefit of the doubt.
That's true.
So many people, and I'm not even just referring to you. Like even Ab and Breach gave him so much rope to hang himself with. He hasn't truly hit rock bottom. He's still convinced that like he's a victim of the Matrix in some capacity, and that's a big issue, because at the end of the day, you know, things are going to happen to you. And you're not going to have all control over it, but the only thing that you can change is yourself. So like when I got banned on TikTok, there were issues. I probably shouldn't have gotten banned on TikTok originally, right? Like they changed their guidelines. They pulled all like 40 videos down in one day, and I got instantly banned, even though those videos were appropriate just the day before. But all I could do is change myself, and it's just reflect inwardly. And I realized that I wasn't who I wanted to be. So was it unfair that I was banned? Probably. But was it good for me if I did like a silver lining? Like, yeah. Which is what I try to do. I try to find what I can control and the silver lining and everything. Like when I was banned on YouTube a couple weeks ago,
the crazy.
They unbanned me after 5 days, but I was really like frustrated. But I said, okay, maybe this is a little cringe, maybe the universe or God or something's telling me that I need to chill the fuck out. So I went on vacation with my wife, and I just didn't think about work. It wasn't just that I went on vacation. I just didn't think about work, and I feel much more balanced now. And I think when you focus on blaming everybody else for all these problems that you have, instead of just, you know, figuring out what you can change, you know, then you're going to have a problem until you accept some level of accountability, you know?
I agree with that. No, that's the thing is I do agree with that. And that's the thing is I feel like everyone is just settling into, well, this is just how the world is. And I'm like, yes, things change though. People change. So you don't have to be an activist. I'm not saying being an activist. I'm not saying go change the world. Like I don't really believe in that, but I believe in walking the walk, living the life you think is good, and not just settling into, well, I have to survive this way because the Matrix or because patriarchy or because it's like, yeah, we all have to do things, but not everybody has to do everything they be doing out here. Yeah. Okay, like there's a lot of justification for a lot of bad behavior out of I'm surviving, and I'm like, okay, like I will accept a lot of it, but like there are lines. Now here's the thing: this is the problem I'm running into. Where recently people are like, "Can you give more of your real opinion?" And I was like, "Why? So I can alienate half my audience? Like why?" And then I started doing it, and people did get upset. Like right where I came out pretty hardcore against like cheating, which is I've always been that way. I was raised that way, but like people were like, "Why are you being so judgy?"
They were upset with that.
Oh, it's pissing off so many fucking people, and they keep saying it's not about that, but it is always about that.
You just gotta say what you feel and just be strong. You gotta condition your audience to be able to disagree with you. Yeah,
that's true. Most of my audience is chill as fuck, by the way. Like, guys, I know you're chill as fuck. You know, I know you're chill, but it is one of those things where I'm kind of shook at like somebody even asked me, they're like, why do you treat cheating like it's assault? And I was like, I mean, isn't it kind of if you're gaslighting your partner for months, telling them like you're crazy, nothing's happening, everything's great, and then you're bringing home possible STIs, you're not getting tested, like it is a absolute violation of consent.
It's definitely, I would say it's wrong. I think it's definitely a destruction of like trust. I wouldn't go as far as to say like assault. I know what you mean.
I agree with you there. I agree with you there. No. It's like a diluted, but for me, it's like a consent violation, and it also is like weakness to me.
Oh yeah, like, those are definitely both. Those are definitely both true. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I don't want to. Sorry, I really want to correct that. Like, don't. Clip me, guys. Like, I don't mean to associate literally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like stories you hear about men who were cheated on and they went crazy. Like they thought they were in the best marriage ever, and then they ended up like committing suicide because they're like, "What are you doing to me?" So for me, I can see how cheating can be so awful that it could really like make someone think like, "Oh my gosh, who was I sleeping next to?"
Yeah, I get that.
You know what I mean? And then there's the cheating, which is like, hey, babe, I was drunk and I like copped a feel, or I was like, a woman kissed me at the bar and I didn't push her away fast enough. And like, we can talk about those. But the remorse thing, what you said earlier, going back to that, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that in Sneeko. I'm looking for that in everyone that I talk about. I'm looking for some sense of, I recognize I was doing something that even to me now is bad, or I need you to say, actually, my values say I can be this person. And then I want you to own it.
Yeah, just be honest about it. Like, if you're going to be kind of a scumbag, just be like an honest scumbag. I understand what you're saying. Like, I can respect a piece of shit that's honest about it. Like, totally. More than a piece of shit that lies about it, you know?
Yes, like the lying part is so, it's just kind of pussy to me. It's like, that's why I don't like the lying, like pickup artists and stuff. I'm like, don't lie. Just do a thing. Like, just ask a girl out. Just do it. Like, you know, but I get it. I get that the narrative is that we should like, I don't know. I just feel like society really likes and encourages lying. So I can't be that upset, but I am just Brittany upset.
You think it encourages lying? Maybe.
Yeah, I do. So. I think politicians lie, our presidents lie, our teachers lie, our parents lie to us. Like, even when we ask them questions, Mom and Dad, where do babies come from? Oh, a stork brings it to you. It's like, okay. Like, that's a cute story, but we do start off, I think, encouraging lying, which I don't blame people. I think it's a survival thing. I think people are afraid. I used to lie a lot.
So,
like a lot.
Are you saying that we shouldn't tell kids that Santa Claus is real? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm not going to tell my kids Santa Claus is real. I wasn't raised that way. I was raised with Santa being a cool imagination version of Saint Nick, because I'm Catholic. We grew up Catholic.
That's interesting. My wife is, I think, on the same page. She's like, I don't want to tell our kids that Santa Claus is real. And I don't know how I feel about that. Because for me, because now it gets into like a whole thing, but that is one of the greatest lies. My uncle, I was talking about before, used to dress up like Santa and like entertain the kids. He would be like, I gotta go somewhere. I gotta work today on fucking Christmas Eve. And then he would come back in dressed up. And it was like a whole cute event. And what's so interesting is that you get to an age where you realize it's not real, but like you just still keep up the act. It's such a bizarre phenomenon. Yeah, it's so weird.
Yes.
So part of me is like, do I really want to, like, I don't know. Maybe I want to do that tradition. It's a fun thing.
Yeah.
But also, my wife's like, we're buying the gifts. Why are we going to let some fat asshole take credit for buying gifts? And it's like, yeah, that's a good point, you know?
Ooh, yeah, my parents did raise us. When we were kids, we each got toys, and then as we got older, we just got cash. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Yeah. But like, there was an idea of like, hey, we worked really hard for this. I mean, we're an immigrant background, so it's very much like, hey, you should know how much those ponies cost at Costco. It was like a $50 set, bro. And like, it did make me cherish it more as a kid. So I get you. Like, do you guys do like, did you do Elf on the Shelf? We didn't do that.
I think my wife, no, they did a pickle. They hide a pickle in a tree. It's like, and then whoever finds it gets a gift. It's
what? Oh, because it's green or whatever, and it like camouflages.
I guess. See? I don't know. It's just
I love Christmas.
It's interesting.
Christmas is my favorite because it's about family, and I'm a big family person, so I get so excited for the holidays. But even something as like small as Santa or no Santa, Elf on the Shelf or no elf, pickle in the tree, like that's a great question. Let's talk about it. Like that is something that could make or break a marriage. Like, you know those people who like do board games every week with their friends, like legit every week?
No, I don't know. I know. I'm sure
I dated a board gamer.
Is it
I dated that person. Yeah. It's so sweet, but it's definitely not my vibe. Like my vibe is like, I'll see you every summer. I love you guys. I'm gonna hang out with my person. I'm very like isolated.
I don't think I could do like weekly board games with friends. Like like maybe like a monthly hangout with family sounds a lot more fun. But
yeah, that does sound dope.
The weekly board game with friends is
I
don't know. Hey, if you like it, I just
exactly.
Like D&D?
There are people, D&D, tabletop, whatever board games. In Seattle, they had board game bars. So that would be like a thing we did every week. But I would just show up to socialize. Like I didn't even care about playing the game. So everyone is so different. And I just think that I'm not sure we each know exactly which game we're playing. Like Sneeko and Red Pill, they'll tell you like, this is the general game. I'm like, that's not though.
Oh, like the game of life? Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, like this is like what life is like for men and women generally. I'm like, no, this is not even the majority of experiences that I feel like I'm hearing about in the news or on TV shows. Their types of relationships aren't even reflected in media.
Yeah, no, not anymore. Well, that's one of the things. That's how we can glorify those traditional relationships. We need more Family Matter shows. We need more Carl Winslow's.
I grew up with all those shows, and I love them all.
Those were great. Those were like, yeah, look at this, because you can't explain to somebody what's so good about like a relationship, like a normal relationship, and like there's nothing sensationalized about it. About having to learn to live with somebody else, because it's hard. But it's like worth it. How do you communicate that? It's like kids. It's like it's the same as kids. It's like it's hard, but it's worth it. But like, how do you communicate that to anybody? You just don't, unless they watch Family Matters and Steve Urkel and all this other shit.
Yeah, I do have I'm really lucky I have the role models, and I'm lucky that I have the TV shows. I'm lucky that I have like the cute family stories I grew up with, to look forward to that idea of a family. Yeah, it is very hard to explain. Oh, and by the way, are you in Robin
Robin, yeah.
having babies? I can't remember.
We're trying. Yeah, we're making attempts. Yeah.
Congratulations! How
Thank
wonderful.
you. We'll see. We're seeing how it goes. But my wife wants to have some multiple kids. So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. So hopefully we'll be pregnant by the end of the year. But we're not going to announce it until we're like 8 months pregnant. We're not going to.
Yeah, same. Even for me, because I'm, just like complications, and I think it'd be really hard for me to maybe have that. I don't know. I share a lot, but I'm gonna wait like a while before I probably announce it, just to make sure the baby is chilling.
Yeah, I think they say you should at least wait 3 months to make sure like it's gonna be decently healthy.
Viable.
It's unfortunate, but yeah, we're making that effort. I'm looking forward to it. I try not to get excited about anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then like when it happens, I'm excited. It's like Christmas. My wife looks forward to it for like a month. And I just don't care. And then Christmas comes in, and then I get excited. Like I just stop my excitement. So, but it'll be fun. Hopefully.
Good. I am so glad. Okay, so that's all my questions for you today. Anything else on your noggin?
Are you guys gonna have kids yet?
Fingers crossed. So the goal is to wait 2 years while I figure out my medical problems. I'm hopefully going to have some answers here in a few days to give me a direction of knowing what my body can handle. But we would love to have multiple kids. We'd love to have at least 2.
Okay. Is it like, and you don't have to answer, but is it like an autoimmune disease that you're?
Yeah. So the doctors are pretty sure it's either fibromyalgia and autoimmune, or autoimmune and fibromyalgia. So like, great, just tell me which one and what's happening. Because like I have like this new chronic pain that's been here since last May. I'm allergic to the heat. I'm having like problems with all these things. I just like answers because I can't deal with an undiagnosis. I was like, just give me. But they are making me live like I have autoimmune. And so I've been like dishing out money for diets and for nutritionists and like people. Yeah, it's been a whole,
Part is the dieting. Because I dated a girl with fibromyalgia for like quite a long time.
Yeah.
Are you guys... what are diets working? Like,
it seems to be. So basically, there's this idea that inflammation is the issue, right? So keeping down inflammation is the key. And there are foods that naturally cause inflammation, like onions and mushrooms and things like that. So I have basically knocked it out of my diet. I started going to the doctor because I was having symptoms but ignoring it because I thought I was getting old. Yeah. And then I ate a big pot of dolma, which is like has rice in it. And I love rice. I'm Middle Eastern. All our food is rice. And I was eating it. And my belly got so big and bloated. And I was like, oh my gosh, it looks like I'm pregnant. I can't eat rice now. I can't eat gluten now. I can't eat a whole bunch of stuff they took me off of. So we're just figuring it out. But they say it takes 1 to 6 years to get diagnosed. And then while we wait, I'm just like forking over fucking so much money, bro.
Damn, that is brutal.
Yeah,
that's a hell of a...
I'm really lucky that I make enough money to cover my bill, so I'm not complaining. Like, thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Well, make sure to stay mobile. I think that's part of it too. Is to make sure you keep your body moving.
Exactly. So fingers crossed. I'm ending my time with my nutritionist soon, and then I'm starting up with hopefully a physical trainer in June to kind of help me do 5 minutes of exercise a day. My doctor said no more than 5 minutes, and I was like, okay, that is so hard because like even packing to leave to move is like my exercise, and I'm knocked out. Like, I feel like I got hit by a car.
Wow.
So it's just like a new normal that I wasn't quite used to. And I don't think COVID helped. I got COVID in October, and I think it exacerbated all my problems.
That makes sense.
And that's what sent me to the hospital. Yeah. So we're fingers crossed. I'm really lucky that my partner's mother has an autoimmune. So she and I are like sharing recipes, and like we're very chill that way. So I'm very excited about that, because I'll be with somebody who understands chronic illness. And then he's like, oh, I was made for this. I was made to be your husband. I know what to do. And I was like, perfect. So it's really lovely. Yeah. It's all going to be great.
Well, I guess at least that part works out. At least his mother, okay. Yeah, well, good luck to you guys. I know it's a struggle, the autoimmune disease. Fibro's rough, but
Bro. Yeah.
At least you don't have to go to the military, right?
At least I don't have to do nothing. I don't want to. I asked the universe.
Silver lining.
No, I literally asked the universe 3 years ago. I was working a nanny job. I was like, please, when I'm on my period, let me just stay home. And now I do this full time. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, I just want to stay home when my body is wrecked. That's my goal.
Well, fundamentally, it's very nice to do this job in general. I don't have fiber. I could go and get a real job if I had to. So like but this is
we're really lucky.
Yeah, especially since like because I do like mostly reactions at this point. Like I come on for like 3 or 4 hours a day. I react to other people's content, and then I edit it a little bit, and then thumbnails, pop it up on YouTube, done. I'm putting more of my work into like the podcast channel with my wife and stuff.
Great.
We're gonna do clips and stuff soon, and there's people who are like, you don't work hard enough. It's like, you're fucking, yeah. Like for 11 years, I cleaned up your piss, shit, vomit, blood, period blood. I worked entirely through COVID, disinfecting every single bus, 200 buses every day with like a half a crew because nobody wanted to work because it was COVID. People were dropping like flies around me. It's people in my family passed away because of it.
Ugh.
Like, I love not doing a lot of work. Are you kidding me? If I that's
you
not,
said that.
it's not.
You said a real. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying, like, people, it's interesting. It's like, oh, you don't work hard enough. Like, you don't, like, no, listen, I don't know that there's a lot of YouTubers that are working that hard. Okay.
It's a lot of emotional labor. I wouldn't say it's a lot of real labor. It's a different kind of labor.
It's a different kind. But when you're getting huge payoffs, like millions, like there's people who get like millions of views, like, well, I do really curated content. It's like, that's awesome. And you're putting in more work than me, but go get a 40-hour at McDonald's and they're working harder. Like, it's
so much more stress. So I chose the easy job. I 100% chose the easiest path in my life.
Of course.
So for my friends and family, they're like, why would you choose to be online? It's so hard. I was like, no. Why would you choose to work in an office?
Yeah.
Like, I'm choosing what's easiest for me. But it is hard in a different way, but it is easy. Like, I don't have to wake up at 3. My brother leaves the house at 3 a.m. to go to work.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't have to do that.
That sucks.
That does suck. Like, and 2 of my brothers do that. So like, it sucks for both of them. But like, I don't have to do that. And you said something about that the other day about cleaning the buses and being a real man and participating in society. Like, I really think as a YouTube content creator, I'm doing my best, but I'm not really molding society, right?
Yeah.
Society's being moved by the people in education.
All about people who have like real,
people helping.
Like high impact jobs. Like, we're not usually doing too much. Like, there's some people who do speak for a living that have like a profoundly positive impact, or but for the most part, the people who are moving us are literally like people at McDonald's are doing more valuable work than us, honestly. And I feel bad for them, tax me more, but bus drivers really, like, that's it's a bus drivers, truck drivers. These are harder, like, they're not super hard, but
so
like
hard.
Driving 8 to 12 hours every single day, dealing with passengers. A lot of, unfortunately, some of these people are older, or they might be disabled, and they might have like some mental issues. There's bus drivers who get kicked, like screamed at, spit on. Like my wife's a behavioral specialist. That's a meme in my chat. I always tell people what she does. That can be a hard job. Like, that's definitely valuable, taking care of people in our society, teaching society that we will take care of people even if they have like some kind of an unfortunate circumstance. Everybody's more valuable. And we sit here, and what I think that one of the hardest things about being an online YouTuber is becoming online mentally. Like, I've been doing a lot to not be terminally online. I have like an anchor that my wife is my anchor. Like, and I've been not making. I have very limited online friends now, intentionally. I think me and you were pretty friendly, but very few people, because you get sucked in. And you don't even realize it. And so now my philosophy is, this is my job and I enjoy it, but this is the job that I do because I enjoy it, of course, but also because it makes me money, so I can spend that on my wife, myself, my family, to build, like, have kids, my house. And I don't really exist in the online atmosphere, and it's been very mentally positive. So I think one of the most difficult parts about being an online content creator is that. And so I've retracted from that.
Literally, when I came back because I've been on YouTube since 2008, but when I took a big hiatus for 6 months and then I came back, I asked myself, like, what am I doing here and what do I want? And I really just want to be like this solo content creator that does her thing on YouTube and follows TOS, and that's the rule I follow. But as much as I'd like to have YouTube friends, it can get overly complicated, and I don't like the social pressures of adhering to like certain YouTube bubbles. I'd rather just like make content. I already have my audience. I've always had my own audience. And so I really love that. And I do often say, and I don't mean it to be patronizing when I say like my real life. It's not that online isn't my real life, but this isn't my life. This is the thing I do. Cause like even my family, like I just hang out with them all the time. And so my siblings, like, we'll live with each other. It's going to be sad to leave them for Europe. But even when I do, like, y'all, I'm going to be with my mans. Like, I'm going to be with my person. So I'm off work at a certain time. I do not live here. This is not my life.
Once the
this is
stream's
a job.
Off, work is over.
Yes, once we're done. Like, and that's hard, by the way. As a YouTuber, I'm always on my phone. Like, am I working? Am I working? And I'm like, Brittany.
I do that too. Like, I'll look at my phone, but it's worse when I was like all bigger on TikTok. That was even worse than YouTube for me.
I could imagine.
Because every 2 seconds, I'm just like, what's happening? What's happening? But yeah, no, I try not to do that too, but you can't help but look at the fucking YouTube studio. You know?
Oh my gosh. And then the drama, and then you see your name on it. Like, I've been seeing my face all over. My sister called me. She goes, I don't even watch you, and you're all over my YouTube page. And I was like, oh.
Is it?
It's just drama stuff, you know? And I'm just sitting here.
Destiny drama? You don't have to, I don't want to talk about the specifics, honestly. I don't want to.
No, it is. Yeah. And like, okay, so again, my siblings, my brother calls me, he goes, yo, my friends who watch that side of YouTube, they tell me you guys like burned the bridge. And I was like, yeah, it got destroyed, mutilated, just like nuked. And he was like, who cares, betas? And I was like, you know, and that's like the problem is like, they don't even understand YouTube as like a real thing. They're like, it's all fake, right? Like,
it's not real. It's just fucking, it's all fake. It's not real.
It's just, I don't even know what's happening. Some people thought Destiny and I were fake fighting. Like, we orchestrated it together. Really? I'm like, okay, we're not doing that, guys.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because if you looked at it through like a lens of real life, all the falling outs with friends I've had, I've never announced it to people. Like, I never made a video that was like,
obviously not.
Guys, I had a falling out with, and like, I know that's a very online way to look at stuff, and it's very normal now. But like, realistically, like when I stop being friends with people, I just don't talk to them anymore. Like, I don't make a deal out of it because it just doesn't need to be. You know, like in the real world, people come and go. And you know, there's something performative, not performative, but there is something performative, whether it's unintentional or not, about being like, hey, I'm not friends with such and such anymore.
Totally.
And it's weird because when I decided to go to the other channel, I was going to make a video on my main page or old main page where it's like, guys, I'm switching over here. My wife was like, you know what? Just don't do that. You don't need to go into like a 10 or 15 minute, like really long form reason why you're going and doing this. Just do it. And I was like, she's like, you people don't do this in the real world. They don't announce every action. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. I just didn't do it. And I'm like, oh, like it's little steps like that just pull you off of on like online behavior, you know? So.
Yeah, I'm really worried about that as well. Like, I really want to make sure that people know, like, I do this job so I can fund my life and I can be a mother and I can be a wife and I can be a person who takes care of my parents when they retire, like whatever I'm going to do, like this is my job. But it is, it's hard because I do talk about my life. So I understand this, which is why I have a rule. If it's online, we can talk about it because I don't share my parents' names. I don't share my siblings' names except for Mark because he's on the channel and he's in mind. Like, I'm very private about other people in my life because they have real lives.
Yeah, of course.
They have real lives in society and they have real responsibilities to society versus I'm just like the one person out of all my cousins, like 200 cousins, out of all my siblings, I'm the only one who's a YouTuber.
Wow.
Yeah. And by the way, when I talked to you the first time, I got hit up by one of my like cousins through marriage. And she was like, bro, I saw you on Papa Gut. What's up? I was like, oh, what's up, bro? Tell your husband I said, what's up? Like, he was one of my favorite cousins as a kid. But like, you are the reason I reconnected with some of my old family that I haven't talked to in like 10 years.
Oh, that's nice. It's so weird how that works. What does your family think? They go like, oh, it's so cool that you are a big YouTuber, blah, blah, blah kind of shit.
They're so embarrassed.
Yeah. Are they? People will walk up to me like at a family party the other day, and one of my cousin's friends' brothers was like, "Oh, I know you from TikTok," and started talking to me about a bunch of drama shit. And I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, man. Like, it's cool." I was like, "I try not to get too into like the whole drama stuff myself." Yeah. Because like who, you know? And he's like, "It's so cool." I was like, "Yeah, it's all right. You know, that's nice." And then
yeah, there's something about it where I don't know how you feel, but I feel. I don't really identify as a YouTuber in my head. Like, it's a majority of how I make my money. It's a majority of what my life is. But I am not like Mr. Beast, who's obviously a YouTuber.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Like,
He's YouTube.
Yeah, I wonder what he talks about to people. Because I don't talk about any YouTube stuff. Like, that's how I almost am happy about that. Like, if it's the way I try to think now is if I go to a family party or a party with any of my friends and I start talking about work, and they won't find it interesting, then it's something that doesn't really matter. And that's pretty much everything that I do, you know, for the most part.
You said that on stream. You said, didn't you say like, people think this matters, like some drama with Gideon or something?
Yeah, it was like Gideon Cabos. None of it matters.
Yeah, none of it matters.
They're bickering over KSI because Gideon likes KSI and Cabos has like a hate boner for KSI. And it's like, you know, I get it online, but none of this truly like...
None of it matters.
You know, none of it really mattered. Nobody gives a fuck. Like, talk about this with like your mom and dad. They're like, just stop. Like, you know, what's a real thing that's happening? You know?
Yeah.
So
my parents are.
Yeah. God,
my parents are really happy I made money. No, you're good. I like interrupting people. It means we're talking a lot and it means we're into it. But like, like my parents are really happy that I've made money and that I'm self-sufficient, and they're really proud that I stick by my values and all that stuff because that's how I was raised. They do always wish though. They're like, I wish you were making Catholic content. Oh, I wish Betsy were, you know, on OnlyFans, or oh, Betsy, I wish. And I'm like, yeah. But I've also like because I've been a person who's like, I've been, again, nude since I was in my 20s. I've done Seattle Pride parades. I've been naked for solstice. I've like done all these things. Being naked on OnlyFans to me is just like, it's the same thing. I'm like, yeah, I'm just making money now.
Yeah,
but I understand that even being an OnlyFans girl, I don't really relate to it. Like, I don't know what that means because I've been posting nude on Tumblr since I was like for free, since I was like in my 20s. So again, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just living my life. But it is, I will tell you the truth. My online time is my time to be a very specific version of myself.
Yeah. I think everybody
Like
does that.
Yeah, like this is a time to be a version. Even dressing up. Girl, do you think I look like this every day? No. I wear sweatpants and my hair is up and I got nothing on my face.
Yeah.
Like I dress up for YouTube. That's like
far.
my time. Yeah, well, this is my one time to be girly is like YouTube. Match like my jewelry.
Oh, it's like an excuse. It's like, oh, you go out to shopping.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just dress like shit all the time. Like I don't give a fuck half the time. Like I'm only like I'll just put like a shirt on, a hat, and then like some pants, and then I don't even wear socks or anything. I'm pretty. Like, I'd say I'm a little different with my stream, but I'm pretty much just like an obnoxious asshole who's just talking to people. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like a slightly different version of yourself,
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's like a different version, but I try to be as authentic to myself as possible. The one thing that I think would alienate me from people is if I needed to give like a hardcore maybe opinion on something. But I don't know, in my head I have the most like normal takes, but obviously they're not normal because people react to them. But that's the part that's hard. Is like I think we all think we're kind of normal. So, like, what is normal?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. What if we're all kind of fucking weird? So, but I try not to make any hot takes anymore. Like, not intentionally hot takes. I just have a take, and if it's hot, that's okay. But that's another thing people do is they have like intentional hot takes on the internet.
That's true.
Well, fucking weird.
That is true.
Yeah,
so wait, okay, then one last question about the weirdness of our jobs. Do you think by being YouTubers we are weird? Like, we're literally saying we're the people that we think people should watch.
Well, I don't think anybody should watch me. I just appreciate it. It's just nice.
Same.
I mean, if I had to recommend a YouTube channel, it wouldn't be Papa God. I don't even know what I would recommend.
Wait, that's true. I wouldn't recommend myself. Yeah. I'd recommend like a cooking channel I really like, probably.
Yeah, like or something. I don't even really watch. I mean, I do, but every time I watch YouTube, it's like for content, and it's interesting to me. But I still wouldn't recommend it because you get like so weird. Watch cooking videos or a TV show or something, or Jon Stewart. Yeah. I'd say that. I love Jon Stewart. There you go. Watch that. That's important. That's an actually important, very important thing, which is something that I've been trying to make some of my content, not all of it, more important. I like to have fun, so I'm not like putting this high pressure on myself, but I've been into like this new thing where like none of this matters when I don't really feel like it really matters because none of this really matters, and like it's fun, but people, I don't know. I remember I watched that Gideon thing. One of the things I said is I wish there were more truck drivers who work 12 hours a day who did YouTube commentary. Yeah. Because like we have this fucking crazy perspective that all this shit is actually like shit that matter. It's just bullshit entertainment and that's fine. But like if you had a normal person look at this, like this is stupid. And like I feel like I'm trying to be a little bit of that. Like what's going on here?
Oh, and based. Okay.
There are people who act like fucking children on the internet because there aren't any real adult. There are older people, but there aren't any real adults who are like, what the fuck is happening here? And so a bunch of like, 20, 30, 40-year-old like man children are going around pretending like this matters. And it doesn't. And nobody's calling them out because it's so stupid. And, you get like wrapped into it.
Literally.
So
like that's crazy. That's what I've been trying to explain to people, especially when I listen to the Manosphere. I'm like, okay, I really appreciate this outlook because it must be happening to you and everything. But because you guys are exceptionally rich, you're not dealing with normal people, right? Like you are literally dealing with people that are not average. And the average people are the best people. Like I think humans are so much better when we're all just living normal, averagey lives. When you go to the extremes, I just feel like you become crazy. Like you just become unhinged. Maybe the average people have balance. Like that's what I always want to. Like the fact that my neighbors like me makes me feel like I'm doing it right. Because my neighbors are wonderfully wholesome, wonderful people.
That is a good thing. Yeah, no, like just regular people like you.
Yeah.
That's what you really want to focus on. Because at the end of the day, like, who gives a shit of people like you online? Because everybody gets to come together. And it's usually people with too much time on their hands that watch you. Although I know I watch a lot of stuff while I'm like doing
I do in the background while I'm cleaning or something. I got it. I always have noise on.
That's the thing, because earlier you had mentioned, like, I thought you asked, and maybe I just interpreted it wrong, something along the lines of, do you think that there's space on YouTube for normal people who aren't fucking sincere? And I think that there's one is happening. I think we're finding more spaces for like normal people on the internet. Because people just want to like there's people in here who come in and chat with me sometimes and they say, hey, I'm just cooking for my kids, or I'm at work doing something, listening to you, I think we're going to see a really hard, fast, heavy surge of of demand for normal people on the internet. I think it's going to hit somewhat soon. And then the normal content creators are going to have like a kind of a blow up for just being normal fucking people. And then people are going to start realizing like, wow, like why do we care about this, that, or the other thing so much? So
no, I agree. I'm looking forward to it. I would love that. I think we are, because there was a time on YouTube when it was just truly just like normies, and then it became content creators, and now I would love to go back to normies. Sometimes I go to YouTube and I'm like, how do I find random channels with like 10 views? Like, how do I do this? Like, how do I find brand new content creators to kind of like fall in love with them before they become famous? Because man, once you blow up, like you have to become a different person.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of,
I don't know if you have to. I think that I think it just kind of happens without you realizing it. I think you get like a rush of viewership. People really like one take you have. You're like, well, I should do stuff more like, or they like one particular video or whatever topic, or you start gravitating towards that. Then you start fearing the loss of those individuals. So like you don't take as many risks. You sit into that one sphere. You don't say anything that might upset people. Those are the areas where I think it's unintentional. People become different because they think they have to be. But that's unfortunate. That's why like people shit on Joe Rogan a lot, but like at least he, even when he's wrong, he's honest, and people value that honesty a lot, because people in the real world are like, yeah, he said a dumb thing. It is what it is. I do that every day. We do it. Nobody's watching you when you make a dumb decision though in the real world. So when I used to work at the bus company, I did something fucking stupid. We didn't have like powwows about how I need to like do an apology. Maybe I would get like a punishment, or maybe I would get suspended, or maybe somebody get a slap on the wrist and be like, hey, stop. And you'd be like, okay. Nobody would explicitly go, I'm so sorry, everybody. There's like some guys that work that done like shitty things, like they've been like, they said like made like really inappropriate remarks, and they don't cut in front of everybody and say, guys, I want to say I'm sorry. It's just like, you have to stop, and then we kind of just move on, because everybody does dumb shit. I
like that attitude. Like see the problem, tackle the problem, move on from the problem.
Yeah, because that's another thing. People make mistakes on the internet, and some things are worth like, hey, I fucked up, but most things are just like, I should just be better moving forward. You don't have to make explicit like, guys, let me get caught in the loop of YouTuber apologies. Guys, I'm so sorry because I don't know, I didn't feel my goldfish. Like, okay, he died, but it's a goldfish. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think like that's why I like you. You seem to have very like just like pragmatic or realistic sort of understandings of what's happening, and then you have your like opinion that you feel like is an opinion you could be strong about. But I do feel like you're very like, you would be a person who would be great to handle somebody who maybe made a mistake, because you wouldn't long-term judge them, but you'd also like, hey, we have to do a little bit better.
Yeah, like I'll just like a normal person. That's how it is, like proportionate.
Yeah,
there's disproportionate anger. People got really upset when I made like a little bit of a joke about eating dogs, giving it to the homeless. But I was like, honestly, maybe it's not a joke. If it could feed the homeless, why not?
I mean,
and they're like,
leave those dogs alone.
Hey, listen, we're gonna kill them in those kill shelters anyway. That's how I look at it.
So sad. I know, that's so true.
Yeah,
it is. Honestly, our systems, even down to recycling, like we're not as efficient as we think we are. But
of course not.
We're trying our best, and this is it, kids. This is the best so far.
Even with our cardboard, I think China is like they'll buy our cardboard more than anybody else, and they haven't been taking it because it's been filthy. So we're not doing it good at all, recycling. It's actually we're doing a really bad job. People think we're doing good. We're not. We're not doing great.
Like that's what I think. I'm trying to stick to things I know, and I know interpersonal relationships sort of okay. Like at least in my own family, we've made it work a lot better. So that's why I know I'm not changing the world, because I'm not tackling any of these big problems. But man, if I could just help a little bit, people get along with their like boomer parents, let's go. That's going to be success to me.
I'm sure you can. I mean, that's what people like, that you gravitate towards somebody that they can relate to in some capacity.
Yeah, so for sure.
It always works out.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. I appreciate you inviting me to talk. Sorry I wasn't quicker about setting a schedule. I'm very bad with setting schedules.
You're so fine. Oh my gosh, you got back to me faster than 99% of people. You're great.
Oh, okay. I got back to you last night, the day before, so that's great. Faster. Who are you talking to? These people are terrible.
You're great. Trust me, you're fine. You did great. Please send my love to your wife, and I look forward to watching your guys' podcast together.
All right, thank you. And love to your husband or fiance. No, fiance. Okay.
I'm going to call him husband anyways. I'm marrying this man.
Okay, well, good. Congratulations to both of you guys.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.